just need minds more than sorrow. The dead man waits for tomorrow. On the search for silence, life is short and violent. Take my soul from me. I don't want to leave. Bullets need minds more than sorrows. The dead man waits for tomorrow.
Hit your mic.
Oh, God, I'm terrible at this. Why do I do this? I just need to let somebody else that knows how to unmute their mic. Greetings, Cul-de-sac commandos. Oh, man. We are going to have a call-in show today. We haven't done that in a while. So welcome. Come hang out with us. We have a special guest, a viewer, a friend. And I also have with me today my partner in victimless crime. Let's get into it. He has a plan, she has a plan, and you get to pay for it regardless. The best way to get someone motivated is to stand for something strongly, deeply, passionately.
Subscribe to Disenthrall.
Do as you're told.
Whew. All right. Welcome to the show, partner in victimless crime, Kaysen. How are you, sir?
Doing great, all things considered. And who's this that we have up here?
This is somebody that will mostly be anonymous, except for his entire face showing on the video. Today we're going to call him Drofig. Welcome to the show, Drofig. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited about this.
I am always looking for good conversations. Today I think we're going to have one because you started talking to me about this. And it was so promising of a talk that I literally said, stop talking to me about this. Let's do it on stream so that other people can maybe benefit from it as well. So the show is going to kind of flow like this. We're going to talk to Drofig here. We're going to have a really cool conversation. Kaysen's got some stuff he wants to talk about. I've got a couple things I want to talk about. And then if anybody else would like to call in to chat about anything at towards the end of the show, we're going to try and open it up to Skype calls this time. We haven't done Skype before. Hopefully it'll work better than Discord. Our Skype name is Disenthrall, me, one word, no spaces. So we're going to see how that goes. So with that said, I want to mention, again, I think Kaysen has successfully launched the Peaceful Parenting University that is available to the world right now. We have, 12, 15 classes available as part of that. I don't know what our number is right now, but I am super proud of the content that is in there so far, and there's like 75 more videos on the slate to be created next. We've got a lot of cool things going with that. How's that going, Kaysen?
Oh man, I'm going through all the content because you're just a fountain of content creation, and I'm like, I don't have kids yet, but I'm glad I'm listening to this now. Because whenever I do like the thing you have on property and assigning it to the kids, and defining it and like, don't take it back because it's their property now. Like, oh man, that's going to be a game changer. Because I grew up in a daycare where that was not a thing that happened, and it was very rivalrous, one might say.
Yeah, and it's still a thing that we have to contend with. As like me and my wife today, we're still kind of working through it and realizing how awesome it is. Like my kid has his tablet and it's his tablet. That thing belongs to him. So unlike most parents that are like micromanaging their kid's screen time, that's his. The most that we could ever do if there's some major disagreement or conflict is like, I can turn my internet off. Like that's he still has access to that device, and that's empowering for him. It makes us both on both sides work on our negotiation skills. Anyway, I don't want to give the whole video again now, but we are building up the Peaceful Parenting University as we go. The last thing I want to do, shout out before we start our conversation, is I want to shout out our new Patreon supporter, Padraic Harrington. Thank you for your support, sir. Wanted to give you a shout out at the beginning of the show. Your support is appreciated, especially in light of the things that are going on right now on the major platforms, which we might talk about later in the show. But we are going to be able to continue to exist, not because of the benevolence of Google and YouTube and Facebook and Reddit and Twitch. We are going to be able to continue to exist because of you guys choosing to watch us anywhere you can get us, and by supporting our show with the resources that we need to continue going. We are streaming right now to 6 different platforms: Facebook, YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Float, and Mixer, because the support from our patrons and people on Subscribestar and donors allow us to afford the $600, whatever it is, I forgot, Kaysen, subscription to Restream.
Yeah,
which
it's like
allows
$600,
us, yeah. So this is all made possible by you guys, more so than these large censorious platforms. So, with that said, welcome to the show, Drofig. Can you just kind of start the conversation off maybe in the same way you did previously, when I found it, so engaging and interesting, and we can just kind of go wherever it takes us.
All right. So for starters, I'm a learning voluntarist. That's one of the reasons why I always enjoy going to Thursday meetups. I always feel like I'm learning something new. But I am a 7-year veteran who was raised in a military household. I was raised conservative. Back in 2012 is whenever I started picking up on libertarianism. I read the book What It Means to Be a Libertarian by Charles Murray. Then I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, started from there. I just started wanting to learn more. I pretty much went from a disenfranchised conservative to a voluntarist within 6 years. So I was kind of always pushy. I always feel like I'm kind of drawn back to how I was brought up. I feel like a lot of the military just kind of, it's kind of stuck in me. So it kind of creates an issue with following the non-aggression principle. I find that the non-aggression principle is the best way to live life. And so with 2020 going down, not including, I think 2016 to 2020, it's been crazy, but 2020, it's brought up a lot of questions, a lot of what's the proper way to transition into following the non-aggression? Because I can tell you, after taking that oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I'm seeing all these constitutional rights being violated on a day-to-day basis. It's definitely, it's hitting a bone. It's definitely, it's something that's starting to overtake a lot of my thoughts, and so it's just,
tell me about that.
Curious,
describe that feeling. So you joined the military and you were in another country, I think you told me at one point, defending sort of the constitutional republic, rights defending, the hashtag America, hashtag freedom, like this country embodies and represents freedom to the world. And you were there bravely defending that. And now you see it unfolding as it is. Like describe, maybe tell me more.
Well, for one thing, I do want to say, I don't want to be one of those, a lot of people who are actually in the military, they don't go see combat. A lot of people, in fact, a lot of veterans I don't really like hanging out with a lot of veterans, because you got a lot of guys who expect respect just because they chose a career. I never actually saw combat. I've never really been in danger. I did have, I was we were in the Asian islands about the time that bin Laden was killed, supposedly. But we were off the coast of Thailand. About the scariest thing that we ever really had to face, or the closest that it came to, was we had a strange boat approaching us from behind. I was on the gun mount, and I was ready, but luckily I didn't get the order to fire. Well, come to find out, it was a tugboat that was going for the wrong ship. Apparently, there was supposed to be another U.S. ship in the area. My big thing is, though, while I was in the military, I was a weapons guy. I was a gunner's mate. My job was to train the ship on proper watch standing, proper weapons safety, pretty much rules of engagement. We were teaching people how and when to shoot. Well, after that experience, I started questioning why is it that we have to fulfill what we call the deadly force triangle? Why you have to have capability, opportunity, and intent to be present, that we have to prove, but cops don't have to do that back home.
Can you tell us about that? What is the deadly force triangle? Teach us.
So, all right. So, deadly force triangle. You have to meet three requirements: capability, opportunity, and intent. Capability means you have to cause harm. So if somebody has a knife and they're 25 yards off or so, and they're just standing there, but they have the capability, they have the knife, they don't have the opportunity because they're too far. They're going to throw the knife, you're going to dodge it, and boom, it's gone. They can shout out, hey, I'm going to kill you. That's showing intent, but you have to meet all three. On the other hand, if they have a 9mm, or let's say a Beretta or something of that nature, they're pointing it at you and they're 25 yards away saying, I want to kill you. They're showing all three: capability, opportunity, and intent. Well, if I shot them, it would be what we would call a good shoot. I think a perfect example of an event is what happened in Atlanta. Yes, he attacked the cops. Yes, he was in the wrong. Yes, he grabbed the taser. Yes, he was in the wrong. Yes, he shot the taser at the police. Yes, he was in the wrong. But once he did that final shot, that totally voided any opportunity that he actually had to be a threat. In fact, it actually voided his capability as well, because he had already fired off the two shots. Those tasers can only use two shots. He should not have been shot. He should have been apprehended in some form or fashion. I'm not a police officer, but for us, we would have been in serious trouble for pulling the trigger on that instance. And it's just, what you have to ultimately do is, do they have a device? Is that device within an effective range? And do they have intent? Somebody with a gun holstered is not showing intent. Somebody pointing a gun at you is showing intent.
So the triangle is basically a way to describe what constitutes a credible threat. Like, I think a lot of people understand the term credible threat as, as sort of the subjective line between when you can proactively sort of initiate self-defense. Like
Yes.
where's the line in a threat where it turns from, just somebody talking crap to when you can actually use force to defend yourself, or to prevent them from actually using force against you, something like that. So this is kind of a way to describe that?
Yes, I would say it's more of a way to justify use of death. If somebody's saying, I'm going to kill you, but all they do is have fists and they're across the street, they can't kill you. There's no way. So they're not really a threat. And even then, you can kind of step away and you can lock your door and you're still probably good. Now, if they are, we could talk about a knife. If they have in their hand, they're saying, I'm going to kill you, and they're approaching you, well, then you're getting a little bit more justified. If they're sprinting at you, then yeah, absolutely. That's 100% justified if you use deadly force on them.
Okay, so you were in the military, and it was your job to teach people sort of this criteria for when you can shoot somebody, and
Yes.
and you're kind of realizing that the cops have seemingly no such standard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even studying like the Supreme Court rulings, the name of the trial totally just left my mind. But what basically set legal precedent was a guy who walked in. He was having a diabetic shock. He went to go get an orange juice. Well, then the line was too long, so he put the orange juice down and kind of. Well, apparently there was a robbery, and so the police officer saw this guy running, so they chased him down and everything. Well, then he started going into like a diabetic shock, I believe. And from my understanding, I'm not a doctor, but my understanding was it's kind of like he was drunk. Well, then they thought he was drunk and just disobeying him, so they beat him. And so he tried to sue and everything. They basically said, no, the police are justified. And the justification that they gave was you can't judge a officer's actions based on all of the facts that are present. You have to go based off of the facts that they know. And so it's kind of, it doesn't make sense if we're using such stringent standards overseas, and they just have to, and that's basically where you get the I'm feared for my life. Like to me, it seems like there's more stringent overseas for the simple fact that the U.S. government is more of afraid of a retaliation from a foreign country than they are of retaliation from the people. And that's the only logical conclusion that I can round to as to why deadly force is so much easier on American citizens than foreign nationals.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
and I mean, as evidenced by, and I think this was one of the things we were talking about, the governor of Texas it was the Senate in Texas just passed a law making attacking a cop a hate crime. And I wish I had it ready and pulled up. This would have been a good thing to show and read, because this is insane. Kaysen, maybe if you could pull that up. If not, I'll search for it here in a minute.
Working on it.
But it even said, like, making a cop afraid also constituted sort of could be punishable as sort of a hate crime. Making sort of some kind of threat that makes a cop afraid can be punishable by 2 years in a cage in Texas. And this passed in the Senate. And I think for the general public, they don't even think about the implications of what that means in terms of their relationship and the power dynamic between themselves as citizens and their government. When a law like that is passed, what that means is that it's sort of like they are codifying the absence of consent of the governed. They are literally, by making a law like that, such that you are not allowed. So listen, this is the point I wanted to make when we were talking about it. Here, I'll make you full screen while I talk about this, Kaysen. Let's see. Relating to increased punishment of offense committed against a person because of bias or prejudice on the basis of service as a peace officer. What I was saying about this was, if a government governs by the consent of its citizens, then when a citizen withdraws that consent, they are then exempted from everything to do with the government. They are then rightfully, they lose any benefits or protection from the government, and they also lose any obligation to sort of pay their fair share towards the government. That's what a consensual government looks like. That's what a government that governs by consent looks like. You say, hey, guys, I don't consent anymore. I want to cancel my Netflix subscription to your sort of governmental services, so to speak. And instantly, as of that moment, they are free and clear of both obligation and benefit of that quote unquote government. Obviously, no government works like that, though. But what this law does is it shows that the government doesn't actually operate by any such conception. Because what happens when your government doesn't operate by consent is when people start saying, hey, I don't consent, I want out, I want to cancel my subscription. And obviously that's not allowed because obviously they don't derive their just powers from your consent. Then what is a person left to do next? What is step 2 when you say, hey, stop, I want out, I don't consent anymore? Well, step 2 is to say, no, really, stop it, I mean it, you're being tyrannical. You are a threat. Okay. And they still don't stop. What's step 3? Okay, well, now you have to escalate. Now you have to say, look, if you don't stop, ... threat, which we're not going to talk about publicly in too much depth right now, what that might look like. But the point is, the reason why people escalate their rhetoric and their response to the level of threats against things like police officers and government officials and things like that is because 2 steps prior, when they stopped consenting to the government, you didn't stop because you're not deriving your just powers from the consent of the governed. And so people they are forced to escalate to the point of a threat because they're being held in a state of null consent that is government. And so when a government makes a law like this, banning threats against itself, it is revealing at the same time that it doesn't give a shit about your consent, because not only has it brought you to this place where you're having to make threats of defense, but now it's going to overtly, publicly on its face, disallow such dissent, such threats. And I think that was one of the things we were going to talk about kind of in response to what you're saying. Like, that's where you leave people. If you don't respect their consent, then the only option they have is to either shut up and be a good slave or start escalating. And the early signs of escalation look a lot like threats. Well, that's now a hate crime and you can be put into a cage. So now not only can you not disconsent, but then escalating beyond just shutting up and being a good slave after you disconsent is, they'll put you in a cage for it. Like, guys, this is the stuff that we need to be pointing to when we're trying to teach people that this government is invalid and consentless, right?
Well, I think one of the things that's also made me like super pissed off was I'm currently a master's student studying forensic psychology. So part of what we do is we have to look at statistics regarding crime. I had a project actually look at clearance rates for Fort Worth, and it shocked me. Homicide clearance rate for Fort Worth in 2018, which is the most up-to-date statistics, was 62%. Aggravated assault was 40%. Robberies was 20%. And the one that's like just absolutely floors me is they have a clearance rate of 18% when it comes to rape. But yet, anytime you want to talk about defunding the police or abolishing the police, the first thing they say is, well, who are you going to call whenever somebody rapes your wife? The crackhead? Well, they got an success rate. As a prior server, if I had an 18% success rate on delivering food, I would not have a job. And so now we can't even step away from that. And then that's not even including like all of the, like just looking at the first 10 amendments, I was kind of looking at everything I could think of that the police has done. I mean, they violate every single one of the first 10 amendments except for the 3rd and 7th. And that's another reason where it's just like who's supposed to protect the Constitution? Like, who's supposed to defend us? I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. Yeah.
You are.
I mean,
it's like Larkin said in my recent talk with him. What people are having to learn right now is that it was never anybody's responsibility to protect themselves other than their own. And people are having to grow up right now, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely just seeing all this. I don't know if it's a flaw or what. I swore an oath, and it wasn't just one time. I swore an oath 2 different times. 2 different times, I held my hand up and said I was going to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic. And I'm just understanding history. The domestic enemy was never it was the government. It was tyranny. It was, I mean, if you look at Sons of Liberty and what they were doing, I think that just speaks volumes on what the oath of enlistment actually is. And me personally, I wish more of my.
What do you mean by that? I don't think a lot of people know what you're talking about.
What perspective?
Sons of Liberty, the oath. What do you mean?
Okay, so Sons of Liberty, I honestly feel like we in a time frame that is it's comparable to pre-Revolutionary War. Sons of Liberty were the ones who Boston Tea Party, but they even took it further. They took it to the extent of tar and feathering tax collectors. People are freaking out about the riots right now and the protests, and I don't know. I think it's funny. Like, if they actually understood history, they realize it was much worse. And I think if the government continues going the direction that they're going in, it's going to be much worse. I mean, I remember talking to my professors while I was in school, and I told them, I was like, within the next 10, 15 years, I think we're going to domestic war. I don't know if it's going to be civil or revolutionary. I do think this is a crazy conspiracy theory. I think government is trying to push it to be a civil war, but I think more of the people to unite and make it more revolutionary. I just see I just feel like there's a lot of a divide trying to be pushed. And there's a lot of people, especially with media, how they are talking down on certain groups, calling certain groups racist, I don't think we could talk about the airmen. I really don't. I think that was a Operation Northwoods kind of thing, but that's just going down the conspiracy rabbit hole. That kind of makes sense.
There is nothing. So a lot of people are being like, "Hey, how do we stop this? How do we preserve the Union? How do we, slow this down?" I don't think you do. Like the chance to change that was 20 years ago when the colleges were beginning to become overtly Marxist, or when the police were becoming overtly militarized. Like the time to slow this down is long ago past. Like, you have an entire probably 1.5, 2 generations of people now that are hopelessly socialists. They are they've seen police abuse. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with the police abuse stuff, but it's not like there's some magical thing that people can do right now to sort of deconvert all of these Marxists. The only way, and the natural way that this plays out in sort of, I don't know, absent force and violence of government, is that groups with views that are this different from one another just separate. They disassociate. Like, the natural non-violent answer to this is that, okay, California, California, you want to try your socialist utopia? Go do you, man. Don't force anybody to do it with you, but let's go our separate ways. You'll run your area like you want to. We'll run this area like we want to, and we'll just see how it plays out. That's the only peaceful way this goes. If you force people to continue associating, then just like with the law about making a hate crime of police fear, you are forced associating, and that will always result in people escalating to threats and then eventually violence. And the only way that you continue to hold that ship together is by continually escalating more and more force, and by coercing everyone involved to stay together, to maintain those associations. Unfortunately, I just think there's still far too many statists, people that believe that they want and need a government, that the way this is going to play out is, it's going to teach some people some much needed lessons, but it's not going to be pretty.
Well, I think one thing, 100% on board with the United States is way too big. I've lived East Coast, West Coast, North and South. I lived in Connecticut, Illinois, California, and Texas, and every single place is different than the other. My thing, though, is how do you get the people that are like in DFW right now, who are very pro-commie, how would you get to relocate them over to California? If there was a voluntarist like community, I want to be there. I 100%. I will take the risk. I want to go away. But how do you help the people who can't afford to just pick up and move? Like me and my wife, we purchased a house. We can't sell it yet. We would be backwards. We wouldn't. So I think that's the biggest answer that we have to come with and figure out, unless you already have it. That's the one thing that I always can't think of how to do it.
I don't think we're close enough yet to have that as a pressing problem to solve. It's not like I think the U.S. government's going away in a couple weeks or a couple months or a couple years absolutely. Or whatever. I do think it's useful and important to go ahead and try and develop those networks and sort of position yourself around like-minded people and already be trying to angle towards living in an area that will be like that. But honestly, what we're doing is creating more voluntarists right now. And until we have enough voluntarists, then a dissolution of any government is just going to turn into a resolution of a new one right now. And I don't know. I'm split, but I'm pretty sure any new government that gets created out of the ashes of what we have now is probably going to be worse in a new litany of ways. I'm not saying I'm necessarily opposing it. It's just I don't see a path right now that's looking optimal or even comfortable, or no, that's the wrong word. I'm not seeing a path that I want right now. So I'm just doubling down on making sure I'm networked with good people and that I'm prepared. I talked about this recently. Hashtag too prepared to care. That's where we need to be right now. We need to be too prepared for what might be coming to be too worried about it. We need to have our families safe. We need to have our networks built. We need to have our supplies ready to go, and then just try and be happy and live our lives. Because guys, it's not like we get a do-over, because this life that we're living right now is kind of at a crappy time in history. This is our existence, folks. So let's do the best we can and try and be happy throughout it, right?
Oh yeah. So all I know is I definitely, one of my regrets is that I definitely started too late. I feel like if you're starting in 2020 to prep and get ready, then you're getting to the point where you're behind the curve. And I know for us, we're definitely feeling it a little bit. Cause I think it finally hit me. I was always like, yeah, we need to prep, but we have time. That I feel like we don't have time anymore. If you're not prepping right now, you're not right. You definitely need to be ready. So,
well, that's good advice for sure. Yeah, if you're not, get ready. Yeah, and we have the Cul-de-sac commandos from today, which I don't know if you've seen those yet, but that is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. And their trigger discipline was terrible.
And their muzzle discipline, all of their discipline.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
It still did the job. Like the weapons that they needed, that they went out of their way to get in advance, did their job, and their house was left intact. So as bad as as non-existent as their training was, and as bad as their trigger and muzzle discipline was, hey, they're alive, safe, and so is their property from the riotous Antifa commies. So good on them.
Well, I do feel like, though, they did kind of get lucky in the aspect of they didn't escalate the situation by pointing their guns at everybody, because I think they're lucky that somebody from the crowd didn't take a pot shot at them. It's hard to sit there with two people and watch a whole entire group of protesters and a gun at them. That's fair game to get shot, in my opinion. And so, I mean, they
did point their gun at the people.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
They're lucky the protesters didn't have a gun in their group, because I mean, I would have felt threatened if I'm but then again,
they had broke into those people's property. Like that was not public property. They broke the gate and were on it.
Yeah,
so
I haven't.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
I guess we need to pull up the news story for the. I can't imagine.
I gotta know, what is the cul-de-sac commando?
What?
Yeah, I just kind of briefly got over it.
So there was a couple in a well-off area. Where?
St. Louis. Both of them were lawyers. I know that much. And then, yeah, the memes are pretty good right now.
The meme harvest has been strong today. I maybe somebody in chat can send me a link to pull up, but it was basically just a well-off couple, a wealthy couple in front of their wealthy home in a gated community, and an Antifa mob broke the gate down to the community and was walking up the street, and this guy and his wife of the boomer generation were standing out in front of their house. The guy had an AR and the lady had a pistol. And they're being called the cul-de-sac commandos. We had some memes on Facebook. Man, the memes are good today.
Okay, so they knocked down the gate?
Yeah, they broke down the gate to get on.
Oh, okay, then that totally, yeah. That changes my perspective. I didn't know about that part. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. Let's see what else. There was a rooftop Korean, storefront Sikhs, and cul-de-sac commandos. That was the guy. There they are. So yeah, these are just people standing in front of their house, defending their property. Cul-de-sac commandos. We're here to eat raisin potato salad and fuck shit up. Looks like we're all out of potato salad. Oh, it's good stuff. Yeah. So this is another example of what Larkin was talking about. Or I guess what we were both talking about was like people are being forced to grow up. They're being forced to. Sorry, Kason, you were wanting to say something. You popped up.
Oh, I was just trying to clarify who the cul-de-sac commandos were, because you guys started talking about it. I'm like, did I miss something? Like, what's the story? So basically, people broke into these people's property and they showed their guns, and then they didn't get wrecked. Was that the idea?
Yeah, it was a gated community, private roads, not like public roads, whatever. Antifa broke. There's pictures of the gate before and after, so you can see the proof that it was actually broke. It was bent down. Anyway. Yeah, and so people are being forced to grow up. They're being forced to realize that the police are unable to protect you. It's security theater, much like the TSA, by and large. The people that the cops are really able to, the bad guys, not even bad guys, the people that the cops are actually able to catch are the good guys that don't run from them. With like speeding tickets and stuff like that. That's what the cops do. That their primary function is to stop the people that stop for them, and be good slave farmers and make sure that the taxed livestock stay in the pen. But the actual bad guys, the people that are out there rioting and destroying stuff, you don't see the cops doing a very effective job at stopping them because they can't. And people are having to grow up and realize that it's your job and your job alone to protect yourself and your things. And that's definitely the good thing coming out of this. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of talk about, or any questions that you had, or thoughts that you wanted to share?
No, not really right now that I could think of. No. That's pretty much everything I was thinking about talking about. I just,
Did you want to talk?
I really,
sorry, go ahead.
I just really wish more veterans would start questioning what's going on around them. We took an oath. We need to start actually following. I mean, even like for me, I personally contemplate that. That's just me.
You're breaking up a little bit. Can you say that again?
I at least want to. Well, like for me, I understand that the Constitution is just a piece of paper. I just find that's where if I live a full life and if we've gotten at least to there, I feel I was a part of trying to get us there. I did my part in life. But we need more of the veterans to start actually asking questions, start looking at the statistics, start looking at the FBI UCR. Understand that there's a lot of shady stuff going on. We're not there. The Iran government's not passing the Patriot Act. They're not choking American citizens to death in the street. They're not shooting rubber bullets at American citizens protesting and peacefully protesting in the face with rubber bullets or tear gassing so that man with a God complex can take magic or take pictures in front of a church. Like we need people to start waking up and actually looking and asking questions. Question: what did you actually take? So,
yeah, good thoughts. And you're of course welcome to come back on the show in the future I think you're breaking up pretty bad right now.
You must be on cable.
Yeah.
Are you on? If you're on Wi-Fi, you might want to. I'll chat with Kaysen for a little bit. Maybe if you have a network cable, plug your computer in. That usually helps the connection a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, Kaysen, you had something.
I'll step away. Plus, I need to help out with kids. So.
Okay, cool. Well, it was good talking to you, and we can definitely have the chat again.
Thank you, guys. Let me on.
Absolutely. I think our connection is just in shambles right now. Talk to you guys later. Take it easy. All right, Kaysen.
Yes. All right. Take care, y'all.
Take it easy.
Yeah. So in the county in which I reside, which is Tarrant County, we have a new tyrant to add onto the tyrant list, baby. Say hello to the executive order of Judge Glenn Whitley, issued June 25th. Whenever you see a bunch of whereases inside of a document, you know some tyranny shit's about to go down. So basically, this guy goes in and he says, hey, the government, blah, 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 there's a big COVID-19 problem, blah, blah, blah. And the guy that's above me, the governor, he said that local officials cannot require individuals to wear face masks to ensure that individual liberty is not infringed upon by government. Okay? So, to clarify, right here, he is saying that individual liberty should not be infringed upon by government, and the mechanism by doing that would be that local officials cannot require individuals to wear face masks. With the next sentence, this guy has the gall to say, because Abbott says so, local governments can require stores and businesses to require masks. So, syllogistically, this doesn't make any sense, where it's like, yeah, I can't make you do that, but I can make someone else make you do that. It's so frustrating. So basically, the day before, so this was issued on the 25th, which was last Thursday, and it goes into effect Friday, the day after, at 6 p.m. So within less than 24 hours, every business that I went to was basically like, hey, you can't come in here now unless you're wearing a mask. And I'm like, well, then I guess I'll do my shopping somewhere else. So I went around until I found somebody who was like, I don't care. I just want the money. I don't have a political, dog in the fight. The reason being, I think that anybody who would kowtow and comply with this up front may be on the path of like, well, you know what? They said the Jews weren't allowed. Like, it's the first step in that. And that's very concerning for me, as far as like, I think a lot of people don't realize that what they are recommending to other people, or not even recommending, that they're requiring of people, I think it's wrong. Like, as far as like the people who are working inside the government, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to make all the businesses do this. I've talked with a couple of local business owners who remain anonymous at the moment, you know, to protect them. And they're like, dude, I don't know what we're going to do, because like people don't want to do this. Like, I went to a restaurant today and nobody was doing it, but I went into another restaurant before then and they were like, hey, put on your mask. And it's like, for what? I'm here to eat. Like, what am I going to do? Wear it at the cash register and then take it off? You know, it doesn't make any sense. So I just, that's kind of the new stuff that's going on around here, Patrick.
It's new and not new. It's a teaching moment for those that were not awake previously. Again, it's the government treating a person's business as differently from themselves. Like, you're allowed to have personal liberty, but once you start selling something, oh, we can control you now. It's businesses complying with threats. So in that way, you can't sort of blame them as the criminal themselves, the one making the threat, but you can certainly shame the shit out of them for not resisting. I guess I don't know if this is the original version of this, but it would be like the income tax withholding. So the business is under threat from the government to not pay their employee everything that they agreed to pay them because the government has a gun pointed at them. You have to, you know, withhold X amount of income tax and send that to the IRS every month from your employees' paychecks. And if you don't, we're going to revoke your license, which basically means we are going to forcibly shut you down. And if you don't comply, we are going to escalate until you are either in a cage or you are dead. And so when a business complies and withholds that money and sends it to the IRS, the employee could be like, what the hell? Why aren't you giving me my money? And the employer's going to be like, because there's a gun pointed at us. So who's the bad guy in that situation?
Government, for sure. Bad government. Naughty. You hold the gun, you the bad one if you're initiating that force, baby.
Exclusively, I agree. It is the bad guy is exclusively the government, and the company is a coward. So you can say you're evil and you're a coward, and you are, you know, fit for defensive force, and you are fit for derision and shame and disassociation. And that is the appropriate response. I've heard people in the ANCAP community. I hate that. No, I've heard, you know, self-described voluntarists say that the businesses that carry out the things that they're being threatened to do are culpable. They are sort of in league with the government in doing this. And so we're talking about the masks, but again, you can have the exact same conversation and everything still works for something like income tax withholding. So the government points guns at businesses and says, you have to require your customers to wear masks. And the businesses say, okay, we will, so you don't throw us in a cage or kill us. And then I hear people saying that those business owners, those victims of that violent threat, are just as bad as the government making the threat. That's false. And again, I've spent a lot of time over the past 2 weeks defending people I disagree with. But I mean, and this is one of those circumstances. The business owners are the victims of threats. So they're not the criminals. Shame them all you want, though. Shame them, disassociate, don't shop there. Fine. But you know what might be more useful would be to stand next to them, and rather than call them names and shame them quite so much, maybe stand next to them and be like, wow, you are being threatened. I mean, do you realize that, like, if you stood up for yourself and your rights in your business, that you would be either in a cage or even dead right now? That's wrong, isn't it? And just stand next to them and take their side and be like, man, I sure wish we had somebody that would resist this stuff. I sure wish more businesses would stand up for themselves and for their rights. I think that might be a more effective method of teaching people right now. What do you think?
Yeah, it's opened the door to talk with people that I work with at an office because they're like, oh, you're the libertarian guy in the office. What's your hot take on this? You know, because they're mostly conservative and there's a couple liberals that work there, and I'm just like, yeah, I think anybody who's forcing you to do something under threat of attack is evil. So that's a problem. And they're like, what do you mean? And we get to talking about, because they just say, it's just a fine. That's typically what they say. It's just a fine. It's just a fine of $1,000 per person who you don't kick out of your business within an arbitrary amount of time. You're supposed to keep them off your property all along. Also, here's a fun fact. If you could put me up full screen real quick, I'm going to show one more thing off of this. So, for the purpose of this executive order, the term entities, which is what they use throughout the whole thing, shall include sole proprietorships. So if you have a cottage industry or a home-based business, or your business address is your house and it's your name DBA or whatever, you're lumped in with all this, dude. That's just, it's wild.
And
wild stuff.
And what you led by pointing out is a very important point right now. The governor tyrant thinks that he can. The governor tyrant knows that he doesn't have the right to force you, Kaysen, to do something, but he thinks he has the right to force you, Kaysen, doing business as blah, to do something. Like, he thinks there's a distinction there. He thinks there's a valid, moral inversion somewhere in between Kaysen the person and Kaysen doing business as blah. Like, somehow, somewhere, liberty has been lost in there, and people need to. This is another superstition that we have to work to dispel. It's tyranny. It's equivocated tyranny. It is tyranny by a different name. It's yeah. Yep. So, the big news. You know, I used to do little short shows a little more often about the current news of the day. And so much has been happening so quickly that it's like I can't even research the story that just happened because there's another story happening immediately after. So it's been difficult for me to. One of the reasons why I haven't created any content on this channel in about a month or so is it's just because it's coming so fast that I don't have enough time to do the usual amount of research to make sure that I'm putting out quality, accurate, precise content. But like this thing that just happened yesterday. It finally happened, and I feel it's relevant for this channel, so we should discuss it, is that Stefan Molyneux has been banned from YouTube. Thousands of videos deleted. Some, and it's bittersweet. And I don't know, maybe that's the wrong word, but back in the day, man, there was a lot of really good videos on that channel that still existed on the internet, and we could still link people to if we needed to, and we could still go back and watch if we wanted to, learn something or go over something that we remember being good. All that is sort of gone now, and that's sad. And it's not just Molyneux either. There was a bunch of people that were taken down, right? At the same time. Yes, and so which reveals that this was coordinated. So you have massive companies, and listen, no massive company does anything super quickly or efficiently. And we had YouTube, we had Reddit, we had Twitch, we had there was one more big one that I forgot, but they all four platforms, major platforms, last night. Or yesterday afternoon, evening, all at the same time, did a mass banning. Molyneux was gone from YouTube. Reddit banned 2,000 different subreddits, including, I guess, a major Trump one. Twitch banned Trump's campaign account. These companies are going hard now. And, you know, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, who was the first one that they banned? Alex Jones. That was the canary in the coal mine. And I remember sitting here on the show, sitting next to you, Kason, and talking about this and looking right in the camera and saying, this is not the only one. This is the first one. They are going to keep doing this, and they're going to escalate, and they're going to do it faster and faster and faster to more and more people. And man, that might have been the most true thing I've ever said on the show. It's accelerating, and it's sort of going off the charts now. And I guess the thing I wanted to go ahead.
What a great segue to just mention that if you go to disenthrall.me/platforms, you can find all the places to pick up your Disenthrall content, including on Mixer, Float, Streamlabs, Twitter, Gab. We have an email address. The places to support, all that stuff, because you never know what's going to happen. One of these days, one of these sites is just going to nuke the channel. It's a matter of time. So now you know, disenthrall.me/platforms to keep in touch, people.
That's why we're live streaming to 6 different places right now. And then after that, the video is going to go up on Library and BitChute. It's, we are doing everything we possibly can to give you guys alternatives to these major platforms. And we hope that you guys go out of your way to subscribe on those other platforms for when the day comes that these platforms delete us, because it is coming. Without question, the things that we talk about, it is coming. What?
Voluntary Dan said he watched us on the hub. That's always great. The porn hub.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
that's great.
That's actually a good point for what I'm trying to bring up here. Like, again, you can't really criticize these companies beyond just shaming. It's not like they're initiating force on Stefan Molyneux when they disassociate and kick him off their platform. We have to make sure that we maintain like a principled, reasoned position on this, even though it is freaking enraging. Look, Pornhub, if you didn't know, all of our content's on Pornhub, at least for like the last 2 years. We have a Pornhub channel. They don't really want our kind of content on their platform. And this is a good way to kind of talk about the rest of it. It's not in their rules to straight up say that our content is not allowed on their platform. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't put it there, because that would be a violation of their sort of consent and property. But, I mean, we all know that this content is not really what Pornhub is looking for. And so if and when the day comes where Pornhub makes up some BS terms of service, you know, murky, foggy, subjective, gray area excuse based on their terms of service to ban or delete the Disenthrall channel from Pornhub, I'm not going to go on a jihad and be like, hey, they're censoring us, blah, blah, blah. No, look, it's their servers. It's their platform. They can do what they want. And that's fine. That's to be expected. They don't really want us there. Well, guess what? If you're a content creator in the freedom space, YouTube doesn't really want you there. It's not outright in their terms of service, because it would look bad for them to say that in their terms of service agreement. But look, they just don't really want you there. They don't really want us here. They don't really want us on their platform. We're not the people that make them their ad revenue. We're just kind of we're just on the periphery. We're in the gray area because it would look bad for them to just outright say what they don't want on their platform, but they're not going to. So they're going to find these stupid, foggy, murky, vague gray area excuses, and slowly, one at a time, they're going to delete the people that they just don't want on their platform. And that's fine. But we need to realize that now. Yeah, we need to realize that now. And get off these platforms. You need to stop watching your views on alternative platforms will pull the content creators off of YouTube and keep these, like, I can't imagine, like, if I was Molyneux and I had, what's his subscriber up to? Does he have like 5 million or something? I don't even remember.
Well, now we will never know. It's gone, baby.
True. But like, how do you pick up the pieces from that? Like, as a business, as an operation, like, that is a huge challenge. It is 0 now. Dude, I said somewhere, I think it was on Discord today, I was like, I guess he's not the world's largest philosophy show now, is he? Somebody else was like, ooh, too soon. Yeah, it's probably a little too soon. But look, I wouldn't even call it a silver lining. The good news to this is that every time they ban somebody with millions of subscribers, they are creating a massive, massive demand for alternative platforms. That is what we need. That is the only way we get away from these companies, and me and Kaysen get freed from the sort of tyranny of existing on Google and YouTube. The only way that happens is if there's a market demand that creates alternative platforms for us to exist on. So it's good news, is what I'm trying to say. When they ban these people, they drive people off their platform and they create alternatives. And I mean, we have alternatives now that function. We do. We have Library. They are a non-censorable platform. Really good quality. We upload all of our content there. Library kicks ass. The monetization stuff is even improving there as well. I mean, it's good stuff. Go check out Library, LBRY. There's alternative social media. I tried out that Parler, and their terms of service looks pretty censorious in and of itself, so I'm not too excited about that, but we have Float. So we have Library and we have Float. They're run by voluntarists, guys. This is like I said this on, I think, Anarchast recently, actually. It's like, how lucky are we that two of the major alternatives to social media and video media platforms are run by voluntarists? Like, it's not like we're stuck with what's that, Mastodon, which is the Twitter alternative that was created and run by literal Marxists. Like, it's not like our only alternative is a Marxist-run platform. No, we have not only a good alternative, but we have the best possible alternatives available now in Library and Float being run by actual principled anarcho-capitalistic voluntarists. I mean, I'm really hopeful. Like, I used to be really down and worried about this, but now I'm just kind of excited and happy. Like, yeah, YouTube, kick more people off, ban more channels with millions of subscribers. Do it, because the more you do it and the faster you do it and the more stupid decisions you make, the faster your business will be relegated to irrelevance. Go hard. Like, just shit all over your own platform. I'm gonna sit here and eat some popcorn. Bring it on. That's my attitude right now.
One of the things that was just kind of interesting for me was that, so I have a page that I run called Texas Libertarians Libertarian Edition, because the Texas Libertarians page was kicking people off or whatever. And in the past, I don't know, 2 months, it's like doubled. It's hit over 1,000 people. There's some decent memes on it. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Hey, Philosopher's in there. What do you know? Hey, Patrick, you're in there. What do you know?
Yeah, they banned me from the official group.
Oh, did they really? I don't think I'm banned there, but every time I go in there, it's only about Texas. Oh, this is good. Looky there.
I was too libertarian for the Texas Libertarians official group, so.
Well, you were also too libertarian for the Libertarian Party in general, right? Where it's just like, hey, taxation is theft, you know?
We'll see
somebody saying that they're gonna.
We'll see them again in about 9 months. Like that part. Wink.
We'll see you again, boys.
We're coming back. So I guess last call, if anybody wants to call in, we're going to try and do it on Skype instead of Discord this time because we've had pretty bad luck with Discord. So last call for callers.
Luce Screws Chops was going to hop on to Skype. So hop on, dude. Give us a call. We'll hear the boop, boop, boop song.
Skype name is Disenthrall Me. If there's anything you want to talk about, now is your chance. Drop in. We'll get you on the show. We'll talk about whatever. Yeah, so I'm even like the faster and bigger channels that they delete, the more optimistic I am. I'm even streaming back to DLive again, and I'm not a fan of DLive. Their crypto scheme is weird and confusing, and I think they're censorious in their own right. That's the one thing that we're missing right now is a good streaming alternative as far as I can tell. We're streaming to Float right now. It's not as sort of wired into like Restream, for example, and it doesn't retranscode for obvious reasons. They're still a small company, so they don't provide multiple bit rates to people wanting to view from mobile devices on mobile connections and things like that. Like if you go to float.app/disenthrall/live right now, you can see our stream. But what you're seeing is the higher bitrate raw output that we're sending. So unless you're on a good connection, you're probably going to have some connection issues there, because we send out a higher quality stream, obviously, that then things like YouTube and stuff cut down. So aside from that, I'm not really aware of a good streaming alternative yet.
Well, we even looked into it, like for one of my customers, like what would it take to roll our own streaming service? And the bandwidth costs are what eat you alive. You pretty much have to roll your own data center to really make it profitable, or be charging a massive price premium.
Voluntary Dan says the official libertarian group bans a libertarian. Not only a libertarian, but a libertarian governor candidate. And not governor candidate in my case, but like a top level.
I was going to say, what happened to the brand, Patrick?
Yeah. No. That's
the branding.
It's just, yeah. Anyway, it's dumb. It's dumb. They are dumb. People involved in politics do dumb things. That's kind of the definition of the beast, right?
There was a message that you and Larkin were talking about, I think on the Rose channel, I'm pretty sure. And it was something like, whenever tyrants start getting control over things, they're just like, okay, rather than ratcheting it up notch by notch, they just like grab all the way. And then people are like, well, that's too much. It's like boiling a frog alive, and it's like 1 to 10. So it's like 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm too impatient. 10. And all the frogs start hopping out. I think that's kind of what's happening right now. I think you guys like kind of called it in advance, because even like my normie compadres, they send me memes that say taxation is theft now. That's not normal. That's not normie.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see with the next 6 months, because I think most of these ideas, if it's the first time someone's been exposed to it, that you own yourself. Hey, right above me, right? You own you. I think it takes about 6 months for that to really like take hold, and then it can't be stopped in general, like the red pill.
Yeah. And talk to people like you understand, like we were, the meetup group meets in Hearst every other week, and we meet at this restaurant that I won't necessarily put on blast here publicly, but I just went in and I talked to the owner, that knows us, because we've been going there for multiple years now, and I'm like, hey, this mask thing, and there's this other thing in Texas, I don't know if this is everywhere, but the tables are required to be 6 foot apart, which basically cuts the business's max body count in half. But I just basically told the owner, I'm like, we're fine to break that stupid demand from the politicians if you guys are okay with, sort of supporting us doing that. And the lady was like, oh, I know. Yeah, don't worry about it. You guys just, do what you want. That's what you need. That is step one. They realize it's dumb. They realize that people don't want it. Their customers don't want it. And all you got to do is just kind of be a little bit, polite and understanding, and, talk about it like it is. Like, look, you're being forced. And I even said, I'm like, look, this is your property. If you want to, obey the edicts that you're being subjected to, I'm certainly not going to try and force myself, or I'm not going to force you to be in a situation of danger, and we'll respect whatever you want. This is your property, and you should be the one making the rules here. You should be the only one making the rules for this property, and I will respect and support you doing that. Even if what you're wanting to do is follow the stupid mask rules or the stupid table rules. Say this stuff to them. Make them realize. It helps. This is how you get through to people. Like, what they're doing to you is wrong. Them threatening you, them controlling your property is wrong. You should have sovereignty in this space, and I will respect that however you want. And, just saying stuff like that. If he was like a sign language translator, he'd be just over there.
I'm just thinking back to Anarchapulco, where this was kind of the running meme of like, bless you, my child, where we just did the...
Yep.
Yes. Rebel Glory asked a great question. How do we find the projects of other voluntarist, ANCAPs, and agorists and more of our people? Do we need to fund each other similar to how George Soros funds the communist groups like BLM? I think there's definitely a place for like media, like what we're doing right now, where if Rebel, if you have something that's going on and you want to promote it, message in, let's have you come on and talk about it. if there's something in particular you want to talk about, like do a cool thing or talk about a cool thing. Like there's a gentleman up in the Ozarks of Arkansas. He has a group that runs up there, the Voluntarists of the Ozarks, in fact, very descriptive name. And, they meet up and they talk philosophy and stuff like that. And that's super cool. Pork Fest. Yes, that just happened. Thank you. Woke mom. Pork Fest. Yes. Welcome back. Just saw the chat come in. There's events like Anarcho Vegas or Anarcho Poco or things like that, so talk about the things with other people. Like I was invited to a Red Pill convention. It's the thing by G. Edward Griffin back in, I don't know, March, or maybe it was before that, from a local in DFW. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. And it was a pretty cool little event, got to meet some people and stuff like that. So it was good.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said, Patrick, for like building a community local. Like what
Yes.
has been the effect in your life of meeting local voluntarists or ANCAPs in your neck of the woods? What's that been like for your brain? Because you kicked the whole thing off.
Oh, wow. I could talk for an hour about that. I guess the TLDR would be utterly amazing. When you're surrounded by people in real life of like mind and that back each other up and do cool things like teaching each other, let's say, ham radio operation so that you can communicate if, something goes wrong, or you maybe have a weapons expert, or you have somebody that's down on like body armor or farming or, technology, or, you just have people that can work together to support each other, even in tragedies, like sort of what happened to my family over the past couple of years. We had a lot, like an amazing group of people that went way out of their way to help my family through the hard times. That's why, like 2 years ago, I did that talk at Anarcho Poco about forging your own tribe, creating a group of local voluntarists in real life that you can link up with and support each other with. And going back to the censorship thing and these major platforms taking people down, like the main thing that you need to I won't say the main thing. A very important thing for you to do is to form communication networks off of the major platforms. Use things like signal groups. We have a very strong and very full signal messaging group here for the voluntarists in this area. And so it doesn't matter if one of us gets banned, if an entire platform deletes everybody, our communication wouldn't even hiccup. Like we still have ubiquitous communication amongst all of us. And even if there's no internet, I think we have some people that have set up methods of communication. So just stuff like that. Do it. Get that going. Like, get off of Facebook, please. I say that like every show. Get off of Facebook. I'm only there because I run a media platform and I'm trying to get the media into your eyeballs. And most of you are on Facebook and YouTube, and so I am a consensual hostage of those platforms only for the amount of time that you guys make me be here. But no, I mean, like that's not entirely true. Like, I'm trying to reach the general public, and so I have to go to where the general public is. But yeah, please.
Just the other day, Google had this spooky thing where it's like, remember what you did 2 years ago on this day? And it showed me photos of that day. And it was photos of a group of voluntarists at your house cleaning, because that was around the time that the whole thing kicked off with your daughter. And I was just like, oh, I do remember this day. That was a good day. I was glad that happened,
Yeah, a bunch of people came to my house, and everything was in shambles because we had been dealing with everything, and you guys literally cleaned my house. It was really embarrassing and awkward and amazing all at the same time. So yeah, that was amazing. And you don't get that without a network. And one of the things that's happened from social media and from sort of the ending of a lot of sort of church congregation style stuff is that people have just lost the local network. Big cities have sort of killed the local networks of people helping each other out. That's another thing. Like, No one knows their neighbors in the big city. I literally barely know the people that live directly on either side of my house. I know their names and what they look like, and that's about. I mean, they've helped us a little bit sometimes, but yeah, that's part of like city life, and we have to work around that. We have to find ways to build communities, because that's important for living safely, healthily, especially with what is likely coming. I like. What do you think, Kason? Do you see this calming down? I really don't see. Like, I don't see this calming down. I see this simmering and having spurts where it escalates and continues getting worse and worse. What do you think?
I'm trying to think of historical examples of when a government said, you know what, we crossed the line, and backs off. Yep, none. I got nothing. I don't think they're going to back off. I think it's going to escalate, whether it be slow or fast. But my prediction, like if I'm predicting the stock market can go up, down, or stay sideways, in the same way, like the violence, I predict it's going to go up. I don't know how fast. I don't know how long. I don't know how long for. But like right now, if I were Jim Cramer, I'd be like, bye, because that thing's going to go up in the near future. Because I think the whole system is predicated on violations of people's consent. And it's only going to get worse because rather than going, hey, you know that law that we passed back in like, I don't know, the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever that thing may be that screwed up the economy, you know, or messed with this one thing. You know, the answer to that is not to repeal that and not to walk back and say, you know what, we should leave it up to the individual to choose what's best for them. They're going to say, oh, no. We need more power. I will reluctantly accept the power that you've given me and I will take on more. You know, because all animals are equal and some are more equal than others, right?
I think they call it the
Animal Farms.
The Sedition Act or something like that. What is that? I need to Google this. But it's basically, I heard about Trump doing something that activated, Sedition Act of 1918. Anyway, I need to do more research before I talk about that. But, you know, it's illegal to disconsent to the government in any more than words, and even doing it with words will now get you put on lists and surveilled. So you've got a bunch of people that are trapped in an association that they disconsent to. There's only one direction that can go. Either, I mean, they're not going to suddenly start respecting consent and letting people out of their involuntary social contract. There's only one way this can go.
Voluntary Dan in the comments nailed it. By saying encroachment is the state's modus operandi. It absolutely is their main, it's their shtick, right? It's like, we're here, and we're here to stay. And if you don't like it, then move to Somalia, you know? Like, that's about it.
Voluntary Dan asked what the procedure is for calling via Skype. Like today, because we're just trying it out, just add us on Skype. It's Disenthrall me, one word, and you're welcome to call in if you have something you wanted to chat about.
In the meanwhile, I will model for you from the gates of heaven. Hello, everybody. Beautiful. Very nice up here. It was a shame that we had to sacrifice many people in the past. They should have repented, but you know, it's not too bad. I got a harp now, little Pegasus, fly around on it. Good. How are things down there, Patrick? Have you guys figured out just governance yet? Have you figured that out?
No.
What the hell, man?
It cannot reverse. This situation is untenable. It will continue to get worse because you have more and more people that want to be in different governance situations, and I mean, it's just the government can only respond by escalating force, which will only drive more people away from them. The more systems will slip through their fingers, so to speak. This only goes one way, so make sure that you're too prepared to care, I think might be the headline.
There's some great memes floating around involving Chancellor Palpatine circa episode 1, 2, and 3. Like, it is with great reluctance that I accept these powers that you've thrust upon me, and I promise, after restoring order to the galaxy, I will relinquish them right before becoming the Emperor. And man, I think for episode 4, 5, and 6, nerd alert, here we go. Episode 4, 5, and 6 is like, how do you take a tyranny and turn it into, oh, hey, who's calling? Maybe we should ask if they want their name to be doxxed before bringing them on.
Yeah. Do you want your name shown?
First off, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, there's no video. All good. What's up, man? What did you want to talk about?
Hey. Yeah. Hang on a second. This freaking feedback is messing me up. Hang on a second.
He hears himself.
Oh, okay.
All right. It's a little off topic, but I had a question about IP for Patrick.
Okay.
So, I know you use the applying the media in pattern model, and I just want to make sure I have this correct when it comes to digital stuff. So fundamentally, anything digital is an arrangement of ones and zeros pattern. That pattern is stored on a hard drive, a USB flash drive, or SD card, etc. That's media. So that means that a hard drive, USB, or SD card can be owned, but the pattern of ones and zeros on that piece of media cannot be owned. And would you agree with that statement, or am I missing something?
I would say it like this: the pattern is not property. The hard drive is the property. So I wouldn't say it cannot be owned, but I mean that's kind of the same thing as saying it's not property. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to stop this double feedback happening. It's really messing me up.
Are you hearing yourself or me?
I'm hearing everything repeat twice. So
Are you listening to the stream?
Yes, I am.
You should probably mute the stream because you'll hear me through Skype.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
That'd be fun to fight.
Ugh.
Are you good now?
Okay, I think it's working now. Okay, yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. I heard Stefan Kinsella was talking about this recently. He is an IP guru, and I would suggest that you would certainly follow him. He posted recently in his social media making yet another great argument against IP to illustrate the absurdity of it. But he was talking about like space aliens. And like, what happens if the space alien, these aliens out in space were actually the first ones to develop the light bulb? And, let's say they visit the Earth and they're like, hey, you're stealing our IP. We demand back royalties on the invention of the light bulb going back to when we invented it. Going back to Edison and the first light bulb, it just kind of illustrates the absurdity of treating intellectual property like it's actual property. If you ever even attempt to vaguely treat IP like it's actual property, it's just completely untenable.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm against IP completely. So, and I've watched your stuff, and I've consumed a lot of stuff from Jeffrey Tucker and Stefan Kinsella and a few other people. And yeah, it was a topic I struggled with, but I've really solidly come down in the position of being anti-IP.
Yeah, same. I struggled with it for a long time as well, just because everything I do in my career is IP. It's wrapped up in IP. All software design, it's all IP. And so I was I used to do a lot of photography as well. That's all IP. Like, you use the government's monopoly on intellectual property enforcement to extract profit from people for your pictures that you take. It was difficult, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, what are your thoughts on kind of protecting? This is kind of tricky, but your reputation, right? Because obviously you can't own your reputation. So how would you go about, I guess, protecting your reputation, if that makes any sense.
Well, what is your reputation? It's a bunch of people's opinions.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, this is not your position, it sounds like. So I think a lot of people that want to protect reputation or think it's something that you should be able to sue over, for example, cough, proprietarians, cough. Like the people's opinions of you are not property. Like I can't sue people that think badly of me. And if people want to, I don't know, like, does that address your question, or what exactly did you want me to talk about?
I was just curious, like, how do you, as someone who rejects IP, go about kind of, I guess, I suppose, kind of ensuring, I guess it would be more in terms of how you interact with other people, how you conduct business, and try to really prioritize that, as opposed to trying to just protect your reputation by using force and coercion. I guess that's what I'm getting at. I apologize for it's kind of being vague.
No, it's all good. You sort of have to become, I can't even think of a good word for it. You just have to really control your actions in the world. And you know, when you mess up, you got to make it right every time. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to, like, I don't know, like 100 years ago, you know, a man would never be caught in a room with alone in a room with, you know, somebody that he wasn't married to or something like that. You know, it's like these old rules of life. You just have to kind of be responsible. You have to make yourself, you have to take actions that can't even be questioned. Like you just have to go out of your way to be a good person and to be above being questioned. Like, that's what I try and do, at least. I'm definitely not always successful, but yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, because I wanted to ask that because I saw that question by someone on one of your IP videos, and he raised that issue, and you said, well, we could talk about it in the Discord servers, and he's like, I don't know what Discord servers is. So I thought, like, yeah, what the heck, I might just ask him really quick.
Yeah,
and see what his thoughts were.
And you know, I don't want to devolve into drama, libertarian drama again, but
right.
You know, when I criticize bad actors, I do it rarely, but I do it consistently. I'm consistent about it. I require evidence first, and when I make my criticisms, I make them publicly. I don't dwell on them. I do. What am I trying to say? For my criticism of other people to be valid, I have to make sure that my house is in order first. And so that's important to me. Like, if I'm going around doing bad things and making unfounded accusations all the time, then first of all, no one's going to care what I think about anything. And so step one is to make sure that, you know, I only open my mouth when I think it's a truthful, reasonable thing to do. And that's step one to having a good reputation. And step two is to stand for something and be clear about it. Like, I stand for sort of libertarian voluntaristic principle. And I'm pretty freaking consistent about doing that. And that's part of it as well.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for that. Quick topic switch. I know you are a big, obviously, peaceful parenting advocate. Mm-hmm. And I'm very curious about it because I'm not a fan of mainstream, normie, peaceful parenting, but I was very curious about perhaps your voluntarist take on it.
Yep.
In your form of peaceful parenting, do you incorporate any form of consequentialism when it comes to when the child does something you may not approve of or want them to do? You need me to elaborate, or
you mean like is this like a question about like letting natural consequences, you know, sort of take their course?
Something along those lines. Yes.
Okay. I was just having a talk with somebody about. I was having a talk with a child psychologist reviewing the Peaceful Parenting University's content, and we were talking about mainstream peaceful parenting versus what I advocate and what I try and teach people. And there is definitely a difference, and I do have thoughts on it. So let me start there.
Okay.
Sort of pop culture peaceful parenting is closer to permissive parenting than anything else. It seems like it's very crunchy, sort of permissive is the best way to say it. Like don't control your kids ever.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll give you a contemporary example. There was a peaceful parenting group where a parent was asking for advice from the other parents in the group about how to get their kids to clean up the living room and to get their toys out. And my wife basically gave the principled parenting response, which is like, well, first of all, start with property. Make sure that you know who owns everything and make sure that that's clear. Like, okay, my kid owns the toys, in this case, let's just say, for example, and I own the living room. And, when my kids want to bring the toys out of their toy room, we make a deal that says, hey, you guys can certainly bring your toys out here to play, but, maybe once a day or maybe once every 2 days, I kind of want my living room clean, and it's my property, so that's part of our deal. Let's agree. You can play with your toys in here, and in exchange, when the time comes, you will also clean up your toys. And so you go out in advance and make preparations and talk about it before it happens, and you make the deal, and then you hold them to the deal, and they hold you to your deals, and that's how it works. My God, this post ruffled feathers in this group. They thought that was terrible. Those kids own that living room just as much as you do. You don't have a right to control them and tell them where they can play. Their whole job in life is to play right now. Exactly. They just got super offended over that. And what is this? What is this noob parents giving advice? Dude, I've got...
Yeah, Chris Brown, you got to take a look at him. He's saying that the deal doesn't work. Deal making doesn't work.
It works like
you should totally talk about how deal making doesn't work. Or better yet, put me up for a second, Patrick. Let me at him. All right. So if you haven't already seen it, go to peacefulparentinguniversity.com to see the full speech that Patrick gave at Anarcho-Poco this year. Boop for free for the frizzle, right? Diggity dare, talking about beyond peaceful parenting, and he's talking about the principles of parenting. It's 36 minutes, and it's worth every fucking minute of it. It's fucking great. I love it. Yeah, so go there and see what you think of the deals that he's making whenever it's a life and death situation with his daughter and they get it to work. So,
I mean, a new
coming
parent,
at you, Chris.
This is like level 1 criticism of parenting advice. Oh, you're a new parent. You don't know what you're talking about. Or you don't have kids. You don't know what you're talking about.
Saying that, to be clear, I think he may have been saying that 2 other people were noob parents. I don't know the names.
Fair enough.
Because he then called them wankers.
If you add up the ages of all my children, I think I'm at 30 years of combined parenting experience at this point. If you add up the ages of my children, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm asking this as a young guy. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. And I'm very curious about a principled, voluntary approach to parenting. Is all. So.
Look, Christopher Brown, you're welcome to call in next, and we'll talk it out. I'm gonna focus on the guy that's called in now. Where was I even? Oh yeah, so they were, losing their mind, saying that we were being the opposite of peaceful parents by controlling our children, and their entire job in life is to play, and you're just trying to control them and stop them from playing, and they have as much right to use that living room as you do. It's their house too. Blah blah blah. That is the difference between pop culture peaceful parenting, crunchy peaceful parenting, and sort of principled voluntaristic parenting, which is based on like the same ethics that we use to interact with each other as adults. We apply them to our children, and it solves a long list of problems. It reduces the conflict in the house to an almost infinite degree. I mean, there is no situation that we have not applied our principles to it and had that situation not come out better. There is not a single, not only that, but the hardest situations a parent can imagine for their children, let's say like leukemia, is also handled by applying simple principled parenting to our interactions with our children. And like Kaysen said, check out the video on peacefulparentinguniversity.com for more on that.
Definitely.
What did that answer your question? Sorry, I went on a rant and then got off on Christopher Brown there.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. Yeah, because like I hate to use this example because I know it's the one that everyone brings up. But the whole like the child is running into the road thing, right? What do? How do you prevent that? You grab him by the scruff of the neck, slap him on the butt, and throw him back in the house, or do you just like, no, sweetheart, you want this? No, just come back from the road, come on. And they put their little foot in the road. You're like, no. So
you hit their toe with a hammer. That'll teach them.
Then it becomes violent. So
there's one of the videos that's already on Peaceful Parenting University talks about this specific situation because it is the Mo Rhodes argument of principled parenting. It's the first thing people ask, and I mean it's incredibly simple. You have to begin with acknowledging who is responsible for who and what in this situation. What is your job as a parent? Let me just ask you that. What is your primary job as a parent?
To take care of and raise this human being so they become a independent, self-sufficient, responsible individual.
And part of that is protecting them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I've never heard anyone disagree with me when I say, hey, it's one of your primary jobs, if not your main job as a parent, to protect your children, right? Like we can agree on that.
Absolutely.
I've never had anybody disagree. That's a primary job of a parent, is to protect their children. So if you allow a situation to happen or to come to be where your kid gets hurt, whose fault is that?
Mine.
Yes. It is a failure of the parent to protect their children. It is not the child's fault that they put themselves in a dangerous situation. Therefore, how on earth can anyone make the case that your failure to do your job as a parent lets you beat them or hurt them? That is insane. That is absurd to invert ethics such that you get to punish someone else for your failure to do your job. So I'm not saying that was your position. I'm just saying that's the first thing I'd like to lead this discussion with, is just simply laying out the equation of who is responsible for what and who has failed in this situation. It is not the child running into the street, it's the parent. It is your job to do the work up front. Talk to the kid before you go out there. Make a deal before you even go outside. Hey, I need to make sure that you're safe. And so what are some ways, and make it a conversation, what are some ways that we can make sure that you're safe? What are some things that we need to watch out for? And you start talking about like, well, there was an ant pile in the front yard. We got to make sure that, we stay away from that. Oh, and there's cars in the street that drive by, and sometimes they drive by fast without looking, and they'll hit people, especially small people that they might not see. So we need to make sure that we agree up front that you're not going to go, let's say past the curb. And so you talk through, you do the prep work. There's another whole video on the university about this. You take the time in advance to do the prep work in these situations before they get to the point where you've got a kid sprinting out into the street and you feel like you need to beat them to teach them a lesson. Like, if you get to that point where you're having to intercede in the situation with force, you have already failed. You have failed as a parent. You have failed at your job. You have failed at negotiation. You have failed with your adult, fully developed frontal cortex to outthink a tiny child's brain to prevent that situation from happening. You have failed. You don't get to hit them for your incompetence. Now, if you find yourself in one of these situations, sure, don't just say, well, damn, I can't use force, so I'm going to let my kid run out in the street and get hit. Yes, but you do it with the minimal amount of force necessary and with a complete acknowledgement of your own failure. And then you talk about it after the fact and you figure out how you can do better next time to prevent that situation from happening. So instead of hitting them or spanking them for running out in the street, you just use the minimal amount of force necessary to keep them safe, and then you do a better job at not failing so bad next time. That's how you do that. Did that answer your question? Sorry, I get riled up on this freaking running into the road thing.
Are you passionate about this topic, Patrick?
You know, passionate enough to make a Peaceful Parenting University. I'll say that at least. Yes. Yes.
That does answer the question. Thank you. I do appreciate that.
Okay.
I'll wrap things up here. Just so you guys know, I was a smartass named Voluntary Dan in the comments section. That's why I'm not commenting right now. And holy cow, it is blowing up. So
I haven't read any of it because I was ranting. Kason, is there?
I have some things to go over whenever you two wrap up. So thanks for hopping on, Voluntary Dan. Nice to meet you in the voice.
Yes, thank you. Just so people are, if anyone's interested, I actually did like a little short audio book on Larkin Rose's What Anarchy Isn't. And I'm also working on an audiobook of Harry Brown's How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, that book from the 70s, which I really love. So that's going to come out here soon enough. And it's on a YouTube channel called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. If anyone is interested, just shameless plug for that.
Yeah. Did you give the address? Sorry, I missed it. I was trying to catch up on comments.
The YouTube channel is How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World.
Okay.
So both those projects are being uploaded to that channel.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for the call, man. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Okay, so a couple things. Debo had a hilarious thing that I think really points out the contradiction. Why not whip the teacher when the pupil misbehaves? Like he was quoting somebody who he was quoting. I was quoting Dio. I don't even want to say that wrong. Diogenes. How do you say that, Patrick? That sounds Greek. That looks Greek.
Diogenes.
Yeah, that one. Why not whip the teacher when the pupil misbehaves?
Not that I'm like some archon of Greek pronunciation, but yeah. I think I got that one wrong.
To me, you know.
I just finished Walter Block's Defending the Undefendable audiobook. I just finished the last edit on it. It is complete. It will be on Audible and Mises.org very soon. I'm super excited about it. But one of your edits that you caught when you were proof listening is my complete mispronunciation of Epictetus. So
Epictetus, yes.
I get the stuff wrong sometimes. I called him Epictetus a couple times.
Whenever Epictetus is talking about being stoic about things, you know, it's an interesting little thought. Another thing.
Doing audiobooks as a Texan. The first world problems. Epictetus.
Go over there yonder and pull yourself a cricket up. All right. Tyler Schuler writes, Did you have peaceful raising parents, Patrick? You want to talk about that at all?
Did I? I'll talk briefly. My mom was mostly peaceful. My stepdad was quite abusive, so I kind of had it both ways. My stepdad came into the picture, I don't know, halfway through my sort of childhood, so I got to see it both ways, and that helps sort of make it clear. I also parented both ways, so I have my oldest daughter who is almost in her 20s now. I parented the very traditional Southern Texan sort of way, spanking, control, force, all, punishments, all the traditional stuff that you would expect. So not only have I had it done both ways to me, but I have done it both ways, and I've seen how it works when you do it one way, and I've seen how it works when you do it the other way. So I'm not bragging when I say that by any means, because I of course wish I hadn't done a lot of the things that I did with my oldest daughter. I have a lot of regrets behind that. But it's given me maybe a more unique perspective on parenting than many people have. Most people only ever parent one way or the other. And by the time they find out they might have done wrong, it's sort of too late. And there's a lot of sunk cost bias in the decisions that they make. Like, it takes a lot of self work, patience, understanding, and courage to be open to arguments that might say things that you had already done in your past were immoral. And that's just kind of an across-the-board statement. So it's challenging for people that have parented in forceful, unprincipled ways to have the conversation sometimes. So I try and have a lot of patience for them because I was definitely in that situation. Yeah. Hopefully that answered the question.
Hopefully so. I don't think that they're currently monitoring chat. They haven't said anything just yet, but also I think they're on a delay. So there was another question from Chris Brown, or Christopher Brown. I suppose Chris Brown is a famous dude. I don't suppose we're talking to the same one because he says he homeschools 4 to 12-year-old, 4 kids that are 4 to 12 years old. He says, how old can kids start making a deals? And to be at maybe for what level per age? I'm not sure exactly. There's a bit of a typo stuff going on, but how old can kids start making deals, and what does that look like?
Well, the first deal is not something that you even have to be able to be verbal about to understand. There's something, thankfully, built into humans where they get reciprocity right away. They get fairness before they, like we begin. It's not until we're like 7, 8, 9 to where the brain develops the capacity for empathy to put yourself really in other people's shoes. That's just not a thing for kids until they're much older than you would expect. They just don't even have the capacity to empathize and to say, I wonder how that person feels on their own. Certainly you can walk them through doing it younger than that. But one thing that you do get, even before you have language, is the simple equation of behavior that is, if you get to do something like that to me, I can do that to you. And so even before, I guess what I'm trying to say is before you even get to the point where where you need to negotiate and have that verbal back and forth and to be able to make deals, you can operate just sort of by the basic bare metal programming that thankfully humans are gifted with, which is the reciprocity of action. You know, if you're taking toys from people, then you can't complain when they take your toys. You didn't like it when they took your toy. Well, you just took his toy. Like, sorry, you don't get to complain. So you treat people how they treat you. That's where you start. And to answer your question, I guess my experience is like almost as soon as they can verbalize, you can start making the simple deals because they understand sort of. Again, the reciprocal activity. So, and it can be simple stuff. But I would say 3.5, somewhere around there is when you can actually start. But like, let me tell you, your kids will begin to eclipse you in their negotiation. When they live their entire life and their entire existence is built around negotiation and making win-win conditions with you, they will get better than you at it much faster than you might even want. Recently, we've had a couple of times where my son will catch us off guard by sort of out negotiating us. And that's because that's his world. That's the reality with which he was presented. He has full ownership and control of himself, and he has the ability to make deals with us. And he's getting good at it. So it's awesome. Anything else, Kason?
Yeah, a frontal cortex mentioned don't talk to your kids like they're kids. I assume he means with like how's it going? You're looking so big today. Just talk to them like they're people and don't allow other adults to do so either. I thought he nailed that from like a growth perspective, because I even remember whenever I was like quite little, like 4 or 5, and people would talk down to me, and I was like, man, I didn't even know the word annoying yet, I don't think, but I was just like, that's not right. Something's up with that.
Yeah. My kids get treated like they're humans, just like me. It's hard to think of an exception. Well, I mean, certainly we dumb down the language a little bit when we're trying to explain complicated stuff, but aside from that, yeah, it's good. We also, both of my kids, especially my son, benefited from sign language before they could talk. My son was not really a talker, but he took to sign language quickly, and once he started signing, I think we used sign language with him for about a year. And then it's like, bam, he just switched to talking, and he was like suddenly super fluent in English all of a sudden. So I would recommend sign language for the babies and the little kids. It helps. I'm not an expert in that area though, so that's just kind of, I call that an amateur opinion. Yep. All right, guys.
I don't think there's anybody else in the queue. No one has said they're hopping on at least. And just a mention. For those that haven't seen the video, that's free. You don't even have to put it in your information to watch it at peacefulparentinguniversity.com. There was literally a guy that came up to Patrick afterwards, and he's still mic'd up, so I can hear him through the headphones. And this guy comes up, and he's like, I want to have a family now. Like, it was just like, holy shit, that's a wild that in 34 minutes for someone to go from wherever he was at to like, I want to do that now. So it's a good talk. Go watch it, people. It's good.
It is powerful, and it's sort of it's not all altruistic either. Like, if you want to change the world, parenting is the most powerful way to do it. I firmly believe that, and I'd be happy to debate anybody that disagrees. Christopher, thank you for your comments. I appreciate and agree with some of the things you've just said, and if you ever want to come on the show and talk about parenting, you are welcome. It sounds like you have quite a bit of experience as well. And I'm always up for a good conversation. So, guys, anything else, Kason? Are we good? I think we're done.
No, I think I'm about to get banned by Facebook. Oh, no!
Oh, too bad. Uh-oh. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll, I think we need to do these live streams more. Man, it's just been so busy. Like, Anarchast takes a lot of time. The audiobooks that I'm doing take a lot of time, so I'm doing the best I can, I promise. But if you guys ever want to have conversations, please just contact us. Hop on the Discord, inbox me, we'll set it up, just like the guy that we did today. I enjoy this stuff, and I think it's good and helpful for people to talk through all these issues. We need to do more of that until we get banned for it. Okay, guys. Thank you, Kason, for hanging out. Tomorrow we have a live stream. Tomorrow we're on Anarchast with Sterling Lujan. Same time, I think, 6:30 p.m. Central on Anarchast.
6:30 Central.
6:30 Central. We're going to talk about cryptocurrency, I believe. And we have some other I think we have some other stuff on Disenthrall, but then the next Anarchast is, I think, the following week. We're going to be talking with Michael Picard. I call what he does trolltivism. He shows up to these Trump rallies and pro-cop rallies and Marxist rallies as, like, he showed up to a cop rally wearing a massive pig costume and walked around being like, I'm on your side. Go police. I support the pigs. Oh, it was hilarious. Anyway, so we're going to talk to him on Anarchast in like a week or so. So see you guys then. Take it easy.